Welcome back for part two of our Tusk-less elephant investigation. Here we're going to be analyzing a data table and trying to quantify the impact that poaching has on the elephant population in Gorongosa. So let's begin. Analyzing data. A small community in Zambia were concerned about the number of elephants dying. Scientists collected data to investigate which types of elephants are most likely to be killed. They organized the data that compared elephants with tusks to that of elephants that did not have tusks and counted each body. So here we have our data table. There's two types of elephants we're focusing on. We're focusing on those with tusks present and those that are tuskless. Okay. So description of carcass. Meat and tusk taken, 27. Meat intact but tusk taken, 75. Now for the tuskless carcasses, meat taken, 4. Meat intact, 0. So now we're going to circle back and we're going to review variables because variables applies to everything we do in science. So we're going to highlight the cause or the independent variable in yellow. Now feel free to write it down on a piece of paper as well if you feel more comfortable taking that approach. But the main thing here is that we're identifying the independent variable, what was changed on purpose or the cause. Once you do that, play the video so we can review our responses and make sure we're on the right track. All right, so the independent variable. If you selected or wrote down the type of elephant, whether they had tusk or whether they were tuskless, then you are correct. That is the independent variable in this situation. Now we're going to go ahead and explore the effect or the dependent variable. So based on whether the elephant had tusk or was tuskless, what is the outcome, the effect? Go ahead and feel free to either highlight or write on a piece of paper the dependent variable and then press play to review it together. So in this situation, the dependent variable is the bodies counted, unfortunately, because that was the result, right, or the effect. Now we have a little checking for understanding question, and we're going to go back to our data table and review it in order to answer this question successfully. So based on the data that you've collected, what determines or causes an increase in the number of elephants killed? And again, we're going to refer to our data table for this. Analyze a table, select your response, and then press play to review your answer. So based on our data, we can say that you're going to see an increase in the number of deaths for tusked elephants because that's what poachers are hunting for, unfortunately. And that's why 75 carcasses were found with the meat intact but tusks removed, because that was what would be commercially profitable for the hunters. Now, sadly, human behavior, particularly hunting for their ivory in the case of elephants, has had a negative impact on the biodiversity of Gorongosa. But it's also a great example of why variation is so important to the survival of a species. So let's go ahead and read a little bit about variation and recap what we've learned so far in light of variation. Why are there different types of elephants in a population? Elephants in a given population have natural differences in their traits. Some elephants are tall, some are short, some differ in size of their ears or even their tails. Variation describes these differences of individuals in a population. These differences are due to genes that these elephants inherit. Variation allows some elephants to have traits that allow them to compete with other elephants. Elephants are constantly competing with others for space, food, and even mates to pass on their genes with. If an elephant gets the resources it needs, more likely an elephant will survive. The longer you live, the more likely you are to pass down your successful genes to future offspring. Traits that help an elephant survive will show up more often in a population. Sometimes the environment changes and a new trait is better at keeping the individual alive. So when we look at tusk, that is a variation that they have. You have some elephants that are tusked and other elephants that are tuskless. And in this situation, humans have impacted or have selected for tuskless elephants and against tusks because those are the ones that are being killed off. And so that is why we believe we're seeing an increase in the number of tuskless elephants in Gorongosa. Now, is this a good thing? Absolutely not. Thanks to variation, we still have these elephants. But if this behavior doesn't change, biodiversity will continue to decrease and our elephants will be endangered. They need their tusk for so many things to carry out so many functions in their ecosystem. And without them, they're not going to be successful at carrying out those functions from what we know so far. So this is something that we really need to consider and think about when it comes to the impact that we have on entire ecosystems that ultimately connect back to us. So we've explored biodiversity and the impact that humans have on biodiversity. And we're going to do a quick little checking for understanding here. So let's think about this situation. We have poachers that have just come to the area. What do you think is going to happen to the population of elephants with tusk? Will it increase or decrease? So go ahead, think about that, select your answer, and when you're ready to review, press play. If you selected decrease as your answer, you are absolutely correct. So poachers will hunt tusked elephants for their tusk. And so we're going to see a decrease in the number of these elephants, unfortunately. All right, guys, that marks the end of our review session. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you here again for some more review sessions. Take care. Bye-bye.